And just to kick it off here, so thank you everyone that's joined the second episode of Dell Technologies Channel Juice Thursdays. And in today's episode, we have Alan Clingerman. So I was mentioning he's the Chief Technology Strategist for our Server+ Workloads for the North America Channel Organization. And he's 25 years of experience in the enterprise architecture space, been with us since 2015, and really prides himself on leading customers to successful outcomes and achieving measurable business results. So not a product mindset, more of how do we help customers become successful in their business, and then trickle that down into things that we sell. And he's being supported today by Chris McCarthy. So a lot of you may know Chris. If you don't know Chris, he's definitely a great guy to know. He's the regional channel compute specialist for the Southern California region. So again, as far as the format, we'll kick it off. I'll hand it over to Alan, and then and before I do that, Chris, I'll give you a second to say hi.
Sure, absolutely.
But at the end of this, we'll probably finish 5 to 7 minutes short. And that way, if you have any immediate questions, and then also I'll give you guys a little bit of a brief teaser for next week's episode on ransomware and cyber recovery. And then we'll send out bonus questions at the end of this. And if you get the first person to get the 3 bonus questions correct, gets the a Dell Technologies North Face backpack. So with that, Chris, I'll pass it over to you to just say a little something, introduce yourself to the people that don't know you, and then pass it over to Alan.
Excellent. Hey, good morning, everybody. Christopher McCarthy, as Buck introduced me. I am the regional channel-based compute specialist here, Southern California and other parts in the Southwest and Hawaii. And basically anything associated to the PowerEdge technology solutions platforms, I'm there to help all the partners in the channel in the region here. So I asked Alan to join the call because I thought what he had to say would be really good content in terms of discussing not just the hardware platform, but really workloads and why it's important in understanding these technologies. So with that, without further ado, again, after we're done with the session here, if you want to go into a deeper dive, work with Buck and myself in terms of we could schedule follow-up calls and things like that with the individual partners and folks like that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Alan.
Absolutely. Thanks for the great opening, Buck and Chris. And to that point, I mean, Chris is an outstanding resource on my team, really helping us drive in region, right? All of the deep benched expertise around the PowerEdge platform. And certainly I'm spending a lot of time with the team to help them better understand the workload context and the applications that are driving kind of the needs for the modern data center. And I think it steps right into that in this conversation here. So I'll just kind of walk you through in our next 20 minutes kind of what we're going to cover. We'll talk a little bit about the workload context and why this matters to Dell and what we're doing within our 4 walls. Kind of what this modern compute means at the edge, and give you a little preview of some really cool technologies coming out from us in the PowerEdge brand over the next 3 to 4 months. Give you a little bit of an idea of the context from a business value perspective, right? What is a blueprint? So when you talk about the edge, what does the edge really mean? And for all of us on the phone, right, what are we selling? What do we care about? What are the infrastructure components that make it up, while we think about the context of what business value it creates for the customer? And then I'll give you just a couple of tools of the trade, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Buck to provide some closing comments and kind of our call to action. Wish I could get in for the backpack there, Buck. Maybe I can rig the questions there. So when you look at workloads and why are we kind of trying to make this transformation as a company, it's trying to remain relevant in this current era, right? Because every company is looking at how do I increase revenue or profit, right? Leveraging technology as a competitive differentiator. And if you look at these items on the right-hand side that just came down, these are all workloads that traditionally made up, and ran in our on-premise infrastructure platforms. So look at the biggest one, and I'll call this out because it's near and dear to many of our hearts of how we work every day: email and collaboration, right? So look at collaboration, the tool that we're on, sitting here in Zoom. No longer am I running Skype on my own platform, sitting in my data center. So these are examples of customers making decisions from a application standpoint, where do they want them to run and how do they want to operationalize them to make it more beneficial for their business, right? And allow them to focus on the core of what they do in their industry or vertical. So you can see all of these commoditized workloads, by the way, these set on top of what? Virtual machines sitting in ESX and our data centers. Well, if there's less VMs, what does it all mean for us? Less infrastructure, right? So the traditional tech refresh play is shrinking for all of us. So where do we want to focus our efforts? We want to focus in the efforts on the left-hand side and kind of what we refer to as the blue ocean. So this is, instead of on the right-hand side in the red ocean that's all in decline, we want to go swim in the pretty blue ocean, right? Where I don't have an apex predator that might have ate some fish behind my boat. I'd rather be in a clear blue water with lots of fish out there to take in my bag and feed the family with. And these kind of 4 areas that we've defined are in data analytics and artificial intelligence. I think everybody has seen the explosion specifically around interest around artificial intelligence and how can these businesses can leverage it. That's obviously underpinned by being able to get value out of your data and an analytics platform. And then if you think about the traditional business applications that drive an industry or business, like look at the biggest one, biggest tier 0 application for most customers, still SAP. Predominantly for all the data gravity reasons that we know, customers run those things on-prem for performance and data gravity reasons, right? So core business applications are on a huge upswing. And then, by the way, those are underpinned by kind of what we call the 2 pillars of the modern infrastructure from an architecture standpoint. One of them is all the great things that you know and love and probably have heard a million times from us around the Dell Technology Cloud Platform, underpinned by VxRail and VCF, and certainly in a high performance, right? When you think about high performance data analytics and artificial intelligence, it's actually underpinned by an HPC architecture. And when you think about high performance computing, it's helping us solve lots of things. Just amazing to just see all the things that are going on with our customers that have large Dell high performance infrastructures today that are out there leveraging their clusters to help us find a cure for the challenge that we're living through today. So lots of interesting things going on in all that space. And by the way, it's not just us stating this. Gartner and IDC said last year, we already crossed the threshold that 100% of on-premise infrastructure growth is already coming from these transformational workload areas. So if I'm not focused there and I have no effort in that space, it means I'm in decline, right? My business is challenged. How do I do this? Maybe I'm still stealing business from my competitors, which is great for us and for you, right? No matter where we sit in the marketplace. But hey, look, I want to focus where there's a lot more opportunity, right? And you can see based on the total addressable markets, this is actually last year's numbers from IDC. Look at the TAM sitting behind it, right? $1 trillion TAM in these areas. And I kind of laid out what that looks like from the hybrid cloud aspect and including our partner programs such as Azure Stack, the business applications, really SAP and Oracle underpinned by either an Oracle database, an SAP HANA database, or Microsoft SQL. And then you can see just some of the logos of all the exciting technology partners that we have in analytics and AI. I just did a fantastic session with Kinetica yesterday to understand their platform better and certainly things we can bring out to you over time. And certainly underpinned by the architectures that we talked about. And by the way, when you look at these new modern data center architectures and technologies that are coming into the compute and storage platforms, they are 100% workload focused and aligned. So data center persistent memory from Intel, NVMe drives, NVIDIA GPUs and FPGAs from Xilinx and Intel. All of these things mean nothing unless it's tied to a specific outcome or workload. So you can see how important, right, more so than ever, the application is driving everything we do. And if you think about these traditional apps, we already just kind of called that out. People are moving from common off-the-shelf software applications they can easily deploy running in VMs to cloud native applications, right, that you've heard enough about, of customers building their own platforms to provide new sources of revenue or profit for the business, right? That's how are they investing for the future. And by the way, you're starting to see, hey, we're still doing okay in traditional applications, even with red ocean, blue ocean, but it's going to go in decline because people are really focused on driving things that can provide a business outcome. And then when you start thinking about edge, what does this mean? It means things aren't just going to live in the core data center or the cloud. They're going to live in areas where lots of data is either currently being created or is going to be created. And we'll explain what we mean by that. And when you look at artificial intelligence, when you think about data placement and where data lives, in order to achieve an outcome out of it, I need some way of achieving predictive analytics, right? And what is AI at the end of the day? It's predictive analytics of what's going to happen. Where should I make my investments? If I'm pulling that real time, for example, in a manufacturing floor, what can I do to improve outcomes to either reduce cost, improve operations, or increase revenue, right? To bring a new product to market. And it's all underpinned, right? Everything we talk about here is underpinned by everything we're doing at Dell Technologies, right? As a modern infrastructure platforms, server storage, networking, data protection, and hyperconverged. And when you look at that, we're here really primarily talking today about just one area, right in the compute. Think about the performance that sits there. For example, if you don't know, Dell Technologies is a huge sponsor of McLaren. Oh, by the way, what do we have in our lab sitting in Austin? We have a high performance computer that takes all the telemetry data that exists in this car every time it goes to an F1 track. It looks at that and it optimizes so they can optimize that car for that track the next time they go there. So it can do lots of things to help improve performance from an engine perspective to aerodynamics to what types of tires and rims and size and weights that still fall within the F1 regulations for them to do what? Go win. So just one example of some of the things that we're doing, right, to help some areas of our business and our customers. And when you think about this, you've heard this mantra from us at Dell Technologies about using data and pulling insights from it using an analytic and AI approach. And we do that in 3 areas, right? One from the edge, and we'll talk a lot about that here in the next 2 slides. Distributed core of like now being able to not just have things in a common core data center, but maybe things that live more adjacent to the cloud, like on an Equinix facility on the same backbone as the public cloud providers, for example. And then obviously in a hybrid cloud approach, right, with our public cloud partners. So in the edge side, here's what we're gonna just briefly talk about for the next few minutes, is when you think about the PowerEdge family, we have a great line of racks, towers, and modular systems. They're lots of different various models that all of you know and love, very general purpose in nature that can be used to build all these things that we're talking about. They're available obviously worldwide, and they have a huge support, right, of everything from a management perspective within the open managed portfolio. Now we're starting to look at more specialized servers, right? We've had an OEM group that works with software ISVs to customize our hardware platforms for their specific software, but we've realized there's a need for something in between, which means if I'm going to provide some type of outcome at the edge of where the data lives or gets created, think about it in context of a telco carrier. Let's call one out that we're all living through. Everybody's looking for 5G cell connectivity, right? They're all in an arms race. Well, think about a telco area where they're trying to build that with a cell type of outcome. And I want to pull all the telemetry data from all the cell phones that are hitting that tower to understand how I'm going to build this out. That's where real-time analytics can help us, and being able to have that compute living at the edge closest to where all that telemetry data is streaming in is extremely valuable, right? So in that area, when you think about like in that area, a telco pod, these aren't the best environments, a manufacturing floor, a retail store environment, right? They're not sitting in a clean environment like my standard data center. So the requirements of these servers are different. So we said, let's come out with a line of specialty servers because we see there's a huge opportunity for us to really build platforms architected for the edge and for these environments. So the XE2420 is the first product that we've introduced in this category, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But you can see it falls right in the 3 buckets, right, from a target perspective. When you think about who are we targeting initially at the edge, I already called them out. The first one is in retail. And just give you one quick example. Think about you go to self-checkout kiosk. I learned a lot about this from some of our retail customers and understanding how their customers come in and cause shrinkage, right? Whether it's accidentally or on purpose, right? Because they're trying to steal things. It's how do I make sure that somebody at a self-checkout kiosk is doing the right thing. So using AI and analytics at the edge to scan and watch as somebody's putting things over a scanner that it's actually that item. So it's looking and scanning real time at the items it's going across, much more than what you're just getting out of today's day and age, which is put it in the bag and look to see if the weight's adequate. Lots of other interesting things going on in the retail space. Telco, we already gave the great example of what's happening in the 5G and really trying to consolidate function virtualization across a number of different platforms, right? Because think about what they might have just sitting in a cell tower to support all the incoming connections and all the functions they need to support. They had a number of appliances, right? Sometimes in one of those cell locations, you might have 10, 15 devices doing different type of functions. Being able to take and collapse all those functions into a general compute platform is extremely attractive, especially leveraging virtualization. And then manufacturing, how do I make sure that I improve outcomes, right, for QA type environments, right, to make sure that manufacturing, I improve my customer NPS by ensuring that I have successful outcomes and that, I actually have a product that's going to work when it gets on the other end. So the first product that we introduced here is called the XE2420. Again, back to some of the things and characteristics I described to this product family. The first one that you would think of, right, is these things aren't sitting in standard racks. Again, how did we describe? Those aren't clean data center environments. So I needed to make them small. So it's a 2U platform, 2 sockets, right, for common architecture type environments such as vSAN. And it's a short depth server. So the idea there is think about telcos in particular. They might be putting this in 2 post racks, right? These aren't even in full 4 post rack environment. So I needed something that had short depth. So you can see a 16 rack depth, right? Significantly smaller form factor than you had in the past. It's also designed for edge and harsh environments. If you're not familiar, NEBS is a standard that looks at ruggedization, right? So a device that's operating in a non-optimal environment, power, thermals, etc., right? Because these things may not be air conditioned, for example. This is just a compliance standard that says, yes, it's built to take that type of harsh environment. So it's designed to be a NEBS 1 compliant machine. Something you will hear commonly in a lot of the environments that I just described, right? Not just for servers and compute, but for other devices. We also designed it with those things in mind. It becomes really challenging how to make sure that I optimize performance, right? So the whole idea was, how do I do this and still ensure that I have a high performance environment? And I needed to make sure that I was still providing consistent management experience with the rest of our platforms, right? So being able to leverage iDRAC, as hopefully most of you know and love, right? And being able to get full lights out type capabilities to manage the platform, especially in these cases where they're sitting in the edge, not in my data center. And you can see there's 3 kind of configuration options that we have provided to the customer, really targeted to those 3 environments, right? So whether it's a richly configured server, really for analytics at the edge in a retail environment, so give you a good balance, right, of large storage capacity with a single GPU. Whether it's a balanced performance package, as you see here, you can get a couple of GPUs with a little bit less storage, really optimized for network function virtualization type environments for telcos. And then on the right-hand side, how do I also provide maximum storage, right, for the last side in manufacturing, right? Because I might be pulling a lot of IoT sensor data. How do I take and stream and collect that data real time? So I can still get very large footprints, but I have to utilize and lose standard drive trays. If you look in those first 2 configurations, you'll see standard 2.5-inch drives. There's 2 of them. in order to get the maximum storage in this other configuration, we had to utilize a technology that some of you may or may not have heard of before. It's called EDSF. So it's basically what, if you've ever heard the term, the Intel Ruler SSD. This is one of the first commercial applications of the Intel Ruler SSD. It actually looks like a long DIMM. If you, the far right-hand picture at the top here, I'm trying to move my mouse cursor over it. You can see there are 6 of those. That's 6 ruler drives in that EDSF form factor. So gets you great density, as you can see, up to 92 terabytes of storage, and still providing the capability of 2 GPUs. So gives you kind of the ultimate of all environments for those customers that don't need traditional 2.5-inch form factor drives. And then hand in hand, if these things are going into an environment where it may not be a common data center, how about having a modular data center type environment? Because I can't just put it in a broom closet. How about I have a nice small micro cabinet to put these devices in that has safety and fire suppression, just like you would in a common data center, with a robust set of physical protection for people, they can't get access to the devices and do something or steal things out of it. And is able to operate in relatively harsh conditions. This isn't fully battle hardened like our XR platforms that you might know from us, but kind of that mid-grade for that retail and manufacturing environment. So when you think about this at an edge, I put this up here because I thought this would provide a good view of what this means for Dell technology when we talk about the edge core cloud, of what does this mean across the portfolio for us, and how do we help a customer achieve these outcomes? It always starts with the application on the left-hand side. And if you look at the applications and the common things that we just talked through, smart manufacturing and retail makes a whole lot of sense, right? Autonomous driving, I actually was just with a partner going to work with us to attack 6 of our largest auto customers. And then battlefield deployments of being able to take maybe an XR type of approach and put it in a pod specifically designed for the battlefield, right, for DoD and our Fed customers. So taking all of those edge type of applications, it's not an example of all of them, but just gives you a good plethora of different industry vertical use cases for this. And if you think about where all of those that data comes from, whether it's in smart manufacturing and sensors sitting on robotic arms, whether it's in retail with cameras setting at self-checkout kiosk, whether it's in autonomous vehicles with the sensors that sit around all the cars we purchase today, or whether it's in battlefield deployments of the sensors that now sit in a lot of our military equipment. I need some way of collecting that data, and that sets in the Dell Edge Gateway that we provide, right? So 10 different sensor type of collect agencies to be able to take and stream that data out to somewhere. And where am I going to do now that compute and analysis? I'm going to do it in what I just described to you, our new XE2420 platform sitting in a micro data center 415. And then, by the way, now that I have it sitting there, I probably will do some analytics there, but maybe I need more horsepower, right? I want real-time analytics, not just what's streaming through at the edge through those sensors, but I'd like to be able to correlate that data to things that might be streaming in from other areas of my business, to be able to correlate what's happening in manufacturing, for example, and tie it back to my supply chain and my procurement teams. That's where I need something like a new offering that's certainly we should talk about as a topic in the future, is the Dell EMC streaming data platform back-ended by Isilon. Incredible platform to help customers get real-time analytics, collect it and analyze it, and feed it out to some of these other platforms. And then I need some way in a core area, right, to protect all of that data. Some of the data I'm not going to keep, that's sensor data real-time. Some of it I probably do want to, so that I can make sure that I build a large data set to be able to take an AI model and get better predictive analytics out. And then finally, to that point, maybe I also have a larger collection of data that's sitting in a data pool, leveraging our full ready architecture for artificial intelligence. As I wrap here, before I turn it back over, I just wanted to make sure you're aware of a couple things. The first one is we have a full tool chest for all of you to leverage on the PowerEdge side, and we'll make sure these links go out to you. The first one is certainly in the demo center to demo all of our software platforms. Hopefully all of you know our enterprise infrastructure planning tool to help you design appropriate infrastructure from power and cooling and footprint perspective for your customers as they're doing their large data center designs. Our virtual rack environment to show you front and back and what of our platforms look like. Fabric Design Center to help you automate the process of building out the fabric interconnects between all these platforms. Live optics to be able to assess and size these appropriately. And certainly a new thing that we're working to bring very fervently to the partner community is our A3 server tool. The other thing in conjunction with that, when you think about all the workload context here, we have pulled together an area called Info Hub. This is available to all of our customers and our channel, so you can certainly send your customers directly here too. That gives you solution briefs, reference architecture, guides, and white papers and case studies in all of the workload areas we described. So a great place, single source to get access to that information. So with that, I see a few, I saw, it looks like you answered the questions. I didn't see anything else come through, Buck. Anything else that I missed?
Alan, I thought you did a great job. Some of the things that I really liked is how you really talked about the workloads that are really taking off and which ones are kind of dying off, and you know, helping people figure out what are the great conversations to go have. And then talking about some verticals, right? That partners can go focus on, our reps can go focus on, and really double down from, you know, asking the customer questions like, what type of initiatives do you have that are collecting data and analyzing data, not necessarily in the core data center, but it makes sense to have that being done at the edge. So I thought you did a great job of painting the picture. The only thing that I saw over chat, so I don't know if this was answered or not, but maybe give you a chance is someone came in and said, hey, what's the unique selling proposition of Dell over competitors when it comes to enabling customers to find the right product? Could you speak maybe just a little commercial on that, a little brief elevator pitch on that?
Absolutely. I think it's two things. And honestly, I put it back to the slide for one reason. There is nobody else in this industry. I've been doing this a long time, and very interesting how my journey's been across many large hardware OEMs, including Big Blue back in the day, and software OEMs, including Oracle when I helped them bring Exalytics and Exadata to market. There's nobody else that has this full end-to-end approach of how do you make this real for the customer. So the power of being able to go, hey, I can start at the edge gateway and provide you a full control plane for all your data scientists to be able to model and build specific algorithms to achieve a business outcome, leveraging all of our platforms, you know, through that analytics phase. There's nobody else that can weave that story. There's lots of individual component things we could get to within each of the business units, but I think that actually tells the best story of from an end to end. This is a real business outcome leveraging all of our platforms.
Thank you, Alan. Great answer. That's why I get up every day and put on my Dell Technologies hat and go try to help partners sell more of our technology, because I absolutely do believe that we are differentiated in the fact that we can holistically help a customer achieve a business outcome as opposed to sell a product. So thank you. So I'm going to follow this up with the bonus questions. But before we do that, I wanted to highlight something that Chris McCarthy mentioned before turning it over to Alan, and that's the real goal of these episodes with Dell Technologies Channel Juice Thursdays is to give you guys an understanding of some of the different ways that we go to market as opposed to talking about product, and some of the trends that we're seeing in the industry that are relevant to all of our customers and prospects. And so with that in mind, we're looking, please follow up, ask us questions. We want to help put together campaigns around these different topics that really will resonate with your customers and help us together deliver some pretty incredible business outcomes. So look for the bonus questions. before I do anything, we'll see, hand it over to Chris and Chris McCarthy, if you have any closing comments, and then see if Alan, and we'll be good.
Absolutely. You know, we really do appreciate you taking this quick 30 minutes. I think Alan did an excellent quick overview of, you know, Dell Technologies, compute, and really our associated workloads that we focus on. There was a question by Ashok, and there yes, we do have detailed information specific to high performance computing. So I can follow up with you on that if need be. But yeah, as Buck mentioned, you know, we're here to help. We're here to engage, and anywhere we can help educate you from a compute and from a workload perspective, you know, feel free to reach out to Buck or myself, and we can set something up for follow-up. So again, thanks for your time.
Any closing comments on your end, Alan?
No, I really appreciate through this challenging time, everybody taking a few moments out of your day to allow us to share some of our thoughts and strategies of where we're going at the edge with you, and look forward to sharing more content with you in the future.
Awesome. So thank you everyone for tuning in. This was the episode on edge computing. Last week, video surveillance, I'll be sending the recording out. And then also please tune in for next week's episode. We'll be on ransomware and cyber recovery. Thanks everyone.